I'm John Garcia, originally from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Joined the Army in '93 and retired in 2021, so 29 years.
Yeah, well, this is Texas Wool Week. What's your claim to fame for being here?
Well, so before I retired, my daughter joined FFA, and she was showing goats, and then we showed goats, and after goats, we were like, what do we do with these goats? So we traded them for sheep, and then we bred those sheep and sold them, and then my wife said, we should get it. Your heritage is Navajo Churro. You're from New Mexico. You should. So we looked into it, and we found a lady that was selling them in Fredericksburg, and we bought 3 ewes, and then we bred them that year, and then we had all twins. So then we quadrupled our flock, I think, pretty much. And then I bought a ram, and then we just continued. I have about 30 now, I think, plus or minus. And I have to split them up because I had only started on 5 acres, and then we had to move to. So I have a friend who lets me graze them on his property. He has about 25, 30 acres. So we have a little agreement that I can put him there as long as I help him manage it. He has 2 longhorns, and I volunteer there to maintain his place. So that's how we started. And then with this place, we moved up this mill, and my wife helps out once a week, and we get our wool processed here. And it's kind of been 3 or 4 years, I think we've been doing that. And,
so now tell me about the wool part of this, because now do you call them churros or Navajo churros? Because it might be a little, are they the same or different?
The churro is, I think, the original breed that came over with the Spaniards in the first Spaniards, the 1800, no.
1400.
1500s,
yeah.
So, and then they survived on the Navajo, they survived and thrived on the Navajo reservation. So that's why they call them the Navajo Churro. So I call them both. So I call them Navajo. If you look on my card, it says Navajo Churro, but I just call them Churro for short.
It's interesting to me that you're talking about raising these in New Mexico. Now, is New Mexico how we sort of have a tendency to think of the southwestern states as all desert?
Right.
But desert can be very different. It's high desert, low desert, hot, cold, and in between. And yet the churros are a sheep that, they've got some serious wool on them.
Right, they're hardy.
Right?
You shear them twice a year. So that you have to shear them twice a year. Their wool will get pretty long, and they're hardy. They've survived since the 1500s, right? If you look at their history, at one time they were trying to eradicate them. A bunch of them were slaughtered, but the Navajos preserved them on the reservation. You can read the story; it's pretty unique. And only a handful, and they just kept breeding. And now they're on the threatened list. I think they're on the critical list right now, and that's why we decided to. And they're just the heritage. I like the heritage and how they're just hardy. They're parasite resistant, and you'll find that in sheep. A lot of them get sick real fast, but ours seem to be fine all the time when I check them, especially when it rains a lot. And in New Mexico, the terrain, if you go anywhere north of Santa Fe, it's Rocky Mountains. It's really beautiful. There's plenty of grass. Four Corners, I'm not familiar with that area there, where they actually they have the Navajo reservations.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty desolate land in places, and it's definitely out of cell phone reception.
Right,
Some
but
parts.
churros eat cedar, and they eat everything. So cactus if they want.
So this sheep almost sounds very much like the Longhorn. So it's interesting that both of them came over with the Spaniards, because the Longhorn Longhorns in Texas, they eat cactus, and they are pest resistant.
Right, they're. Like I said, they're hardy. They for some reason they survive. They're survivors. Some of mine you can't even get near them. It's impossible to catch them because that's why they call them the Mustang of sheep, because they are wild. They'll jump over you. I've had one just leap over me in the horse. I opened the stock trailer and it jumped right over me just like a couple of days ago. So you got to really watch them. And then the bottle babies are the best. People say, hey, don't keep a bottle baby, mom, but they always come to me, and I use them as my. Okay, feed them, and then the rest will follow, and that's how I get them in and out of pastures or in the stock trailer.
So do you enjoy the management component of this? It was such a kind of a squirrely animal or a shy animal?
I do. I just, right now I keep them in, I use mesh electric fence. That's how I rotate their pastures, and I rotate them every 30, 40 days just so that parasites don't gather, and then I'll just rotate them around. And they're fine. They seem to do well in any environment. I don't really manage them too much because they're pretty good. If I give them protein and good food, then that's fine. So I do supplement their pasture out here. I'll give them alfalfa, and then I'll give them a protein tub, and they seem to do well, especially right after I shear them when they're trying to regrow that hair. And I've some doctors said they're ruminants, so that's how they get their heat is by eating. So I'll give them really good food after I shear them. So like I said, they're due for shearing here this month. So I went to the shearing school in San Angelo last month, and so this will be my first time on my own. So we'll see if I get second cuts, which nobody wants. In the sheep community, they know what that means.
Well, San Angelo is huge in the sheep and goat
They
world.
are.
I mean, just
They
a
go-
monster.
Sheep
I had no
capital
idea.
of the world, I think they call it. Yeah.
We've seen the little sign there, in front of the entryway
Right.
in the town. Yeah, huge
Yeah,
area.
so every year they host a shearing school, and I went. My wife went one year, and she showed me some of the ropes. I was like, I think I need to go, and then I was able to, through a veterans organization, get a grant to buy shearing equipment. So I was thankful for that. So now I have professional shearing equipment. I just gotta use it. Maybe tomorrow.
But that's a lovely thing. I know that there's been a lot of programs particularly in the last 10 years that I've heard of, that are there to help veterans go. A couple different things. There's many people that don't fit well into the world after you've been gone overseas for a while.
Yeah.
So it kind of like the mental adjustment while you're doing something physical like agriculture.
Right. So sheep are great. Animals are great, right? They're therapeutic. When they have these equestrian farms for veterans and stuff, but I think the sheep, that's what, if I just want to go hang out, having a bad day, I'll just hang out with the sheep. It's wonderful. They'll come to you, you hear them talk, and it's soothing just to be around animals. I'd rather, with my kids, I make them go out there. They were homeschooled. One's in school now, but they know how to manage the sheep. I can have my daughter go get that. She'll go out there and grab them. So it's a good family thing. It's not just mom and dad. It's all of us. They're into it. And then my daughter's into fashion design, and now she's starting to use wool, it's like full circle. I couldn't get her to use wool initially, but now she's like, hey, we're learning about wool and how wool's made. And I was like, so it's very fitting.
Is she doing the handwork, your daughter, or is she doing sewing, or is
She's doing this, Baylor has a great fashion design program, and so initially she was sewing a lot. She started off just crocheting at home, and then during COVID she was making hats and selling them on Etsy, and then she decided to go into fashion design when she graduated a year later.
That's fantastic. You should do the Make It With Wool program. Have you
Yeah,
heard
that's what I'm
about
trying.
that?
They're doing it this year. So all those kids at Baylor, they do that. They put entries in. So I think she's going to do it this year. So I think she was confident in her abilities, but now I think she's getting better.
Oh, there's money in it this
I know
year
there
too,
is, yeah.
right? They got 2, 3, 4, 5 competitions that I know of.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've been to one of the Make It With Wool competitions. I think they had one in Kerrville, and I saw the items they made. I was like, wow, these are phenomenal.
It's impressive, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And I bought some of the vests that they've made in Chimayo, where the weavers are from New Mexico, and I have one of those. It's a turquoise vest. It's really nice. I wear it around. People go, that's a really nice vest. And I tell them, well, it's made. I don't know if it's made out of churro, but I tell them the story of the churro wool because it more likely is. And I said, this is made from sheep, similar to the ones we have, and then tell them the story because it's fascinating that they came here in the early explorer times and they just survived ever since.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing to have a product that you work with or an animal that you work with that has meaning to you personally and history behind it. So how many generations of?
So I don't know. I know my great grandfather, when he lived in the Hondo Valley, which is southern New Mexico. When he died, he was older than the state of New Mexico. I remember going to my great-great-grandfather's funeral, and my dad said, hey, he's older than the state of New Mexico. So he was a sheep farmer. And then my father's mother, so my great-grandmother, her family raised sheep. Because my dad told me, he's like, we used to raise the sheep when we were kids. And then I guess the Depression and then the war, they moved to Santa Fe. My grandfather, my dad's dad and mom moved to work with the railroad. He didn't have to go to the war. He did the program where they rebuild America. I forget what they call that. And then so they stopped raising sheep, but my dad just was just as a child did it, and then I picked it up when I retired. I mean, he had horses and all, but I don't think that's not really raising sheep. So that's what I did when I was growing up. I had horses my whole life, and then I said, my wife said, you need to get into your heritage, and my wife's from Poland, and she knew more about my heritage than me, so we got into it, and haven't looked back. I love it. I wouldn't change it at all. I think it was a good decision.
Yeah.
So.
I love things like that had meaning. And now you're kids, right? I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I mean, you said, so we put the name of our sheep on the back of each of our products. And then I have a picture, so if people want to see them. So this one says Crackers, and that was one I mentioned earlier. That I used to eat out of my hand. She normally has bottle babies, so she's good for giving us bottle babies. So if we ever want a bottle baby, I breed her, and I'll normally get 2 bottle babies, but she's I kind of rescued someone. Asked me if I could. They knew I had churro. When you're in the community and you're in Texas, like, hey, this person has churro. They're leaving. They want to get rid of them, so I bought them from this family, and she's been really good. And then this is Molly. I can tell right away. I can just look at this and tell you that's Molly's wool, and she's a lighter churro, but she gives really nice wool and offspring. So this was our first time we put these through. They've gotten a lot better with the quality and the spin. We were just trying it. I think that might be hand spun as well. And then this is run through the mill here in Bandera. You can tell it's quite changed. Now that isn't Molly. This is a different one. I think her name is Honey Badger, because it looks kind of honeyish. But and then this one is probably. So once you cut them the first time, they're this color, and then later on, the browns start turning a grayish black. So,
you would think it would be the opposite,
yeah,
right?
they will turn almost silver. So, yeah.
Now, churro are a sheep that give. Some people say coarse. Some people say less fine. But basically, it's not something that many people wear close to their skin. But
Right.
It is extremely strong. Is that right?
Right, and then they make a lot of the rugs out of them.
Yeah.
So I have a big rug. I don't think it's Navajo Churro, but it's you could tell it was made on a reservation somewhere, and it's hand stitched. And it could be very well that it was, because I know the Navajos up north are very big at using, or it could be a blend. We like to blend. We'll blend our churro with the Angora, and then my wife can make socks out of it. So especially if it's the younger. If it's a first shearing, their wool's really soft. It won't be wired at all.
So it's just a question of blending it with things that make it do what you want it to do.
Angora is very soft.
Yes.
Kid hair is
Isn't
great.
it amazing?
Yeah, I have 2 Angora, so we'll blend them. And now my wife makes socks for me she asked me what I want for Christmas, and it's always, I said, get me socks or a scarf. I didn't want anything bought, so she makes me socks every year. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing any today, but I wore them yesterday. But I wear them, and she gets excited. It's like, oh, you're wearing the socks I made you. So I have like 4 or 5 pairs of socks. And so I tell them, I don't want anything bought. Just make it. And just trying to keep shop local, stuff like that. That's my goal.
That actually leads me to something. How did you find the mill here?
How do we find Jennifer? Jennifer, I think, owned a shop in Bandera at one time. And my wife we were kind of close to here. My wife met up with her. And then just going to different wool fests, she's like, hey, my friend Jennifer's going to open up a mill. And then we were here when they had just a little bit of equipment, and then it's kind of expanded. And my wife helps out twice a week. So it's really hard to find processors in Texas. There's only 1 or 2, and most of them have a lot of backlog. So we're like, my wife, Jennifer's like, hey, if you help out with the wool, you can get your wool processed. That sounds like it. And then we wanted to learn anyway, so I think that was a fair deal. So my wife comes once or twice a week, and then anything they need from me, I can come and help her out.
That's one of those things it's very sad that, as the rise of industrialization comes in, and we used to have all these ways to make our own food and fiber, and then we kind of got rid of them in the name of efficiency, and now a lot of these mills are just closed out. It's hard to find.
And they only have mini mills. They call it these mini mills, I think, because the bigger mills. I talked to a guy in New Mexico that makes the blankets. He's the Trujillo part of the Trujillo family, and he said his mill closed down in Ohio. So then I said, well, there's a mill in Bandera. So these little ones are, I think, helping those small remnants that are still doing blankets and stuff. I think they have a bigger one in Mora, New Mexico. It's a big mill, but they may be backlogged as well. But I know Jennifer's one. I don't know how many are in Texas, to be honest with you. There's a few in New Mexico, and I know if you go on their website, they're like, we're not taking any more wool. We're full, because you need to run all these machines and a little bit of expertise, and they're kind of complicated. I look at them and I'm in awe.
So I'm just going to ask you to speak to anybody in the military that might want this as a rehabilitation moment,
Right.
where you're getting back in. What is it that you love about it that you would recommend to them?
So you mentioned veterans programs earlier. So there's a few veterans programs. I don't know if so there's the Farmer Veteran Coalition program. It's free, and they've given me a grant. That was who gave me the grant. They gave me a grant for a stock trailer, and they gave me a grant for the equipment. You have to fill out paperwork, but they were able to give me 2 grants, which I was very thankful for. And then I joined a program so there's a program when you're transitioning out of the military. It's called Skill Bridge, and it's and through the last 6 months in the military, you can go work on a ranch and do a transition. So your last 6 months, if your unit allows you, you can go work. So if someone wanted to work on a mill, they could come and say, I want to go work at Jennifer's mill for 6 months. And while the Army's paying them, they're working on a transition. They can work here for 6 months. They have to just keep contact. And then, so they call that skills bridge. You're learning a skill to bridge you over to the civilian. So that's kind of how I got into it as well. I did a skills bridge with Texas A&M, AgriLife. And I was able to, technically if I worked here, she was supposed to hire me or whoever. I just did the program. I already knew what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a sole proprietor or LLC. So I didn't choose to work anywhere. I found a mentor. They assigned me a mentor, and the mentor showed me, hey, this is how you do chickens. If you want to do chickens, this is how you do beef. So I did it all. So I worked on a cattle ranch for a few months. Like I'd go every weekend or a couple, and I learned about cattle because even though we had a few sheep, I wanted to learn I think just the business sense is pretty much the same. And I was able to link in with the government programs like NCAT. There's another program through NCAT and ATRA, and it's National Center for Advanced Technology. It's through USDA, and they have a program, I believe it's called, I forget the name, but it's like a Boots to Business type program, and that's a week long, and then they put you on different farms, and then they teach you how to write a business plan. And then it's just access to resources and a network, and that's how you meet folks. So if you're in the military and you're trying to get out, there's the Battleground, the Breaking Ground program, which is a great avenue to get in, and it's free. And they teach you how to write a business plan, like I mentioned, and then you get to meet other mentors, and then you meet other sheep farmers, and then that's how I buy my hay from a guy in the program. So I go buy hay from a guy that I know produces hay from the Battleground program. He's a veteran, and the guy that does my taxes was another. He does the Schedule F, which is for farmers and ranchers. He does mine, and he's another. So that's how I met a lot of the folks. And then anytime I see a veteran that's interested in farming, I mention those programs because they're free, and hopefully they transition out and do that. Because a lot of folks want to get away from and do something different after spending 20 years in the military or 30. I did 29. I didn't want to do anything with the military after that. I don't even exercise anymore.
But it's, in a way, I would think, it's very much a little bit like military life, in that you have to get up at a certain time. You have things that you're responsible
Right.
for. You have to
There's
communicate.
no days off, right?
No,
Yeah.
and it becomes your life in a way, and yet a life you can recognize because of the military.
Right, it's
pardon the
pretty
phraseology.
structured.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
structured thing, and you know that it's either going to make or break. Sometimes it could be your life if you don't do that. If you don't get the sheep in or prep for that flood or whatever it is.
Something will happen. Yeah, I've had floods. I've had where it rained and the sheep are out, and I'm like, oh gosh, we got to move them, and the river's up to here, and I got to go cross and take the electric fence down because they're stuck on one side. So yeah,
Probably going to war a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah,
when
it
you
is.
think
It's
about
fun,
it?
and
Yeah.
it's or they'll have birth at the most. Normally, when the temperature drops, I didn't have it. I bred them later this year, so I knew the temperature was going to drop like it did last week or week before. They'll normally do it in the worst time possible. All my animals, when it snowed 3 or 4 years ago in Texas and Texas shut down, all my animals gave birth. So I had them all in my garage, and we had no power for a week. and I'm using space heaters and regenerator. But it's always a challenge. Just like the military, you just adapt and overcome.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, that is wonderful. Now tell me, if people want to find your products, where do they go? Do you sell them?
We do. We sell them here at Bandera. That's mostly where in the business, or we're on Facebook on Dancing Sun Farm.
Dancing Sun Farm.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. And you can just look for that logo there. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.